I've been fitting the Peco turntable, so stay tuned and all will be revealed. Well, good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Piccadilly Eastway. Now, as you can see in front of me, I've got the Peco turntable and it's now time to start thinking about fitting that. And I am going to be fitting it around this area just here, so that when I pull the traverser out, it's not going to affect anything around this area. You can see I've got the Z21 there, so it'll probably just come just in front of the Z21 in this part here, so it won't really affect accessing the layout either. So it will be attached on a board to the bottom of the traverser, and I'll probably have two long strips of something wood and screw that to the bottom of the traverser, and then again to the board, so that the turntable will then sit in a hole. Now, going back to the actual model itself, what I'm not going to do is go through step by step how to build this. There are plenty of videos out there if you want to know how to do that. What I will do is show you anything that's significant, any issues that I've come across, anything to be concerned about or to be aware of, I should say, and how I'm actually going to wire it and turn it round, because I can't fit a motor in that space there, just there. It won't go in, and because it will catch on the front edge of this, and obviously that's not going to be very good. The idea of putting the turntable in was an afterthought, and for those of you who've been watching the channel for quite a long time, you will realise that the traverser has been used before on the previous version of this double O gauge layout. So anyway, I'll start getting it out. We'll have a look at the pieces briefly, and then I will just build it. Okay, catch you shortly. Right, let's have a look. Right, so obviously we've got some instructions there and some grey parts. Obviously that's the base, and there's some brass parts in there, and obviously the track sections too. Well, that looks like the turntable section itself, and obviously that's the track bed just there. These bits, I think these are the bits that actually start to connect the gubbins and the wiring to the actual base section. But anyway, I'll have a look at that, started to get this built, and as I said, I'll show you anything that needs to be highlighted. Right, just a quick intervention if you like. It's a very straightforward model to make, and you know, you just put these two sides on, you glue it to the base part. These plastic pieces go on inside there. These outriggers here, there's a top and a bottom which you have to glue together, and then you have these housings that you glue into a hole on the top section here. Now, it's really important to get those so that the wheels are free running. As you can see there, they're very free running. So to get that, I've had to file the side of the wheel and the side of each of the housings in the gap there to get that. And there is a stainless steel rod which goes in through there, or a pin even if you like. Welcome back. Now, as you can see, I've decided to scenic up the turntable. I didn't fancy leaving it quite like that. It just looked a little bit bland. So I know it's going in the Fiddle yard, which is kind of there with all bare baseboards and stuff, but it will just add a little bit of extra interest to the layout, even though it's totally unrealistic and it makes it look more like a multi-story car park. You can see the layers, so it'll go around here somewhere, and then you've got that layer coming as the slope, and that's the top layer up there, so like a 3-story multi-car park, but never mind. But as you can see, I've just weathered up the wood just like that. all the way around. It's not finished yet. I've not put the track in, I've not put the electrics in, I've not put the railings on, so there's a fair bit to do on that. But I wanted to get on with the base and get that glued together as suggested, and then sort of scenic it up. It's just different greys, whites, blacks, all sort of mushed together. So they are still there, but you can, it looks more vibrant on camera, to be honest. And then I've gone round the rail and sort of rusted it up, and then just a daub of grey all around on the sleepers, all the way around to support that track. This is a brick paper, and the one I had 2 soldier courses. So I literally had to go around with a knife and cut every single one. It was quite laborious, but I hope you'll agree it's much nicer to have the bricks going around the outside there, and it sort of finishes that area off. And then it's a case of matte varnishing it and then going in with dry brush, some very dark grey, light grey and white, and just sort of speckled it on with a very splay type brush. And I think the finish on that is coming out quite nicely. So that's that will be done up very soon, and obviously that does fit in there and spin quite nicely, as I showed before. Now this is based on a turntable in Yeovil Station, Yeovil Junction Station, I think, Yeovil something station, and the turntable is literally just at the end, and all this area around here was quite mossy. So using the lines, which you can just about make out there, and there's a circle in that area there, so painting on with white PVA, literally just scatter some different types of very, very fine foliage, dark, light, maybe some sand as well in varying places, just to make it a little bit more interesting when the locomotives turn round. I could have just left it as the plastic version, but I just wanted to go a little bit further than that. Now, moving on to this bit, obviously you can see this is the board that I've used to cut it out. I didn't have, unfortunately, a piece of board which was completely the right size. So what I've done, this piece was a lot longer, so I've cut the end 2 pieces off and used them to make this section. So there's this piece, obviously, and then there's the other piece which join the 2 together. All right. Now for the whole, Peco have very kindly provided us with a template. I just open that up, which is just there. Now that is 310 millimeters diameter. So to get that, what I did was, obviously that piece was in there like that. So I marked off the corners, the diagonals, and obviously had to guess roughly where these would have come, and then drew a diagonal line across like that, which helped me to find the center of this. And then by folding this piece of paper like so, I'm not going to do it exactly, but then line up that cross with that cross and then position it on the board. Now, to get the line from this, you can cut it out and do it that way, but I haven't finished building yet and I didn't really want to cut the instructions up. So what I did, as you can see, for those of us who are a certain age, you might remember we used to scribble on the back of a design, and I put it up against the window to do it so I could see this line very clearly. Scribble all the way around, pressing quite hard, and then line that up the way it should go, and then literally just draw around all the way around. And what happens is this line here, or the pencil from this side, transfers onto the board. So all you have to do is just go over it again just to make it a bit darker, and then it's absolutely perfect. Use that as a cutting guide for the jigsaw. So obviously that's come out quite nicely, and I'm quite pleased with that. It did need a little bit of fettling, but that fits in there very, very well, as you can see from there. It does need a bit of pushing in. It's quite a tight fit, but as you can see there, that's
absolutely perfect.
Right, welcome back. Now, as you can see, I've gone in and put in the mossy stuff as I said I would. And also, you might be able to make out I've put in these drain covers. Now, you might be thinking, well, yeah, you do, because that's part of the kit. Well, those are 3D printed. These are the drain covers that come with it. And hopefully you can see that they have got like a flat bottom to them. Yeah. So it's only the grill section just raised up, which does make it a little bit more difficult to paint and make a bit more convincing. So what I've done is, as I indicated in the previous clip, I've just painted the circle section black underneath and then 3D printed these grills, which you can see through. So I think that does work quite well. And I think at the end of the day, it will just give a nice little sort of respite from all this blandness of, you know, yeah. Anyway, that's the way life is at the moment. Now, there has been a few issues reported with the Peco turntable. Now, I just showed you this, but you might also notice this round pin thing or washer. Now that, obviously when that goes through there, clips on the bottom and you put the tiniest amount of super glue on there and bond it on. Now, when some people have put it on and left it upside down, they've reported that the glue has gone down into this part and glued that to the inside there and making it solid. So that is then frozen still and you can't use it, obviously. And so obviously I don't want that to happen. So I'm not going to bother to put that pin on. But not only that, if there has been an issue and you need to somehow remove the track, which you can do unless you've glued it, of course, if you glue that pin, that circle piece on, you can't then take it out. Now, the next issue that people have reported are these pogo pins, which is a very good idea. You can see these two holes here and they've got springs in. I don't know whether you can see that. You might be able to make that one out in there. And that then connects to this brass strip here, and there are some wires soldered to the bottom underneath there, or there will be. But people have reported that that bounces up and down as it's turning, and so therefore the connection isn't so good. So you could probably see from there, I have literally packed it with weights. And I may even put some more on yet, I don't know. But the point is that that then spins nicely on there. And the idea would be that the wheels turn. That's what I really, really want to be able to see. Okay. Now that one isn't turning, but that might be because it's not sitting flat. But, you know, you get the idea what I'm trying to say. But the other issue that people have reported is that if I turn this over, and I don't know whether I'm going to be able to show you on the video, to be honest, but when there's a heavy locomotive on here, that bows, and you can see the plastic is quite thin, like that. Can you see that moving in the middle there? So you get a heavy locomotive on it, and you get this dipping effect. So it doesn't, the turntable doesn't turn as well as it could do. So my idea for that is I've cut this circle of 6mm plywood. I think it's 6mm plywood, and that's going to be glued in there with epoxy resin. Now, what some people have done is they've said they've ground this off down to this level and these circles off to this level, and then stuck it to this section. Well, I'm going to just go with that and stick it to this part here, and then pack it with some odd piece of plastic card, which is about that same thickness. And, you know, hopefully I should get it fairly flat. I mean, even if I stuck it to these sections alone, it wouldn't be as strong, but it would still stop that middle from bowing in. And that's the whole point of it. And it doesn't stick out much more than the bottom of that. There is a recess there, as you can see. All right, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, you probably also realise, if I zoom you out somewhat, that I have now put this section onto the traverser. Yeah, so you can see that's part of the traverser now. Now I've used these pieces here, which I think are around about 3x1. Let's just have a quick check. Yeah, 3x1, give or take. Now it is overkill, but that's what I've got, and I'm not going to go out and buy new wood when this will do the job. So it is, that goes the full length, right from the front here, right the way through to the back. It will be quite strong. It's less likely to warp now because it was part of an old bed, to be honest, which I then cut up to use as the wood. I needed to get rid of the bed. We didn't need it anymore, so I thought I'd just cut it up, use the wood. But you probably have make out I've put screws between every part of the track, and the same down there. All right, so there's 18 screws, 9 on each section, holding that on. And the reason for that is I didn't want this board, even though it's 12mm, to start doing that and bowing up in the middle or even at one end, you know. So by putting that many screws in, it will literally grip it to this piece and hold it nice and flat. Even though there are 2 draw runners fairly close either side, so it shouldn't have made a lot of difference. I mean, these will hold it nice and still. But also there's 4 screws here and 4 screws down that side as well. So this is going nowhere. All right. So that will slide very, very nicely indeed. I might end up moving this handle and put it maybe here. I don't know at the moment, or here. So just to make it a little bit more accessible, but that's coming on very nicely. And you'll also realise I've put the triangle piece on there. I've decided to use just one triangle piece, and the reason for that is because when this section here is right up against here in the layout, so the Z21 is just right in here, and so therefore access to the point will be right down there, and it would be quite awkward to get to. So I've decided that when a train or a locomotive runs off the mini traverser, it will come all the way up this line, up to that section just there, and then back down again. And I think that will work quite nicely. And the other thing as well, if I'm going to use the 08 for shunting movements, and if there's a wagon needs turning round, and obviously the 08 plus one wagon should fit nicely onto the turntable, you know, I can do that too. And I think it will be quite nice to sort of watch the trains come up to this point up here and then back down, turn round, and then go back out, move the traverser across, etc, etc, etc. So anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm not going to be far off finishing this video, to be honest. I will reassemble this section here now so you can see pretty much where we're going. I might even be able to get a little bit of track in. We'll see. But I'm not going to be doing any electrics in this video because I think it's going to be a little bit too much and too complicated for one video. I think a second video on the electric side of it will just make a little bit more sense. All right, anyway, I'll catch you shortly. And welcome back. So this is pretty much everything I'm going to do in this video. So let's just have a quick look. So what I've done then is obviously I've built the turntable to its current state. Still need to put the railings down both sides, and they've been sprayed white. I've obviously built this section here and put the mossing effect on top of the base there, painted the rail and put the some effect on the sleepers to represent the wood that will be underneath there. Wouldn't have had concrete back in those days, would they? Not on the railway anyway. And then obviously 3D printed some drains. There's another one there and another one over there. And hopefully you can get the idea that it does give a much better impression of depth, and there is actually something below there. So I'm quite pleased with that. But obviously this will turn, no problems whatsoever. You'll also notice now I've fitted a point at that part there, and it's currently gluing, so that's why there are a couple of screws in there just to hold it down and make sure that everything's all right there. And I've fitted this line. Although it is fitted properly, it's I'm printing a very shallow ramp just to get it up this step. It just needs to climb probably by about another 0.5 millimetre, that type of thing. So once that's done, I'll slip that in underneath and then glue it down. I might even scenic this section up and have like a little diorama on this area here. I'll have to have a think about that. But as you can see then, I've also then produced this framework which is then bolted to the traverser and allows the whole thing to move without any problems whatsoever. So I'm quite pleased with the progress, as you can see at the moment. And in the next video, I will be looking at the electrics on how to wire up the turntable, not so much on wiring up this point or anything like that, because I've done that in a previous video. So that probably won't be included. In fact, it won't be included. But I am going to the new BRM show at the NEC next week. So if you do see me, come and say hello. It will be really lovely to meet you. And I am really looking forward to going to the show and seeing if there's anything different than there was last year. So anyway, you just take care of yourself and I'll see you very, very soon here on Piccadilly Eastway. Take care now and bye-bye.